want to show you guys what I'm doing here. I went and bought some gizzards and hearts, and I'm preparing them to put actually into some dirty rice. And I just wanted to show you what I do with this. This is the gizzards and the heart here, the hearts. Let me get a piece and show you how I trim this. You can see when the gizzard comes, it's got this connective tissue here. So what I do is it's like a silver skin. I just grab it and expose it and trim around this way. And then go to the other side where this muscle is. And just get rid of this here. Because when you cook these, this part never gets soft. I know it's a little tedious, but what you're looking for is that little morsel under here, which is absolutely delicious. See that little morsel of meat? Absolutely delicious. It's worth every minute of this. It's really the best you'll ever taste if you do it the right way. Let me clean this other one. See, grab this, just cut into the back of this. You can even put your knife through here. It's like a pocket. Make sure your knife's really sharp. Move it around. I'm kind of cutting and pushing as I do this to see where I need to cut. And then you see, go on the other side here and cut this muscle off. See, and then you get this, again, a little morsel. And these are going to go in the dirty rice along with the hearts. I'll do another one here. Sometimes they butcher it from the store. See, this one is only a half, so you can cut it towards you. Start the skin like that. See, then you can turn it around and do the same thing. Push and cut. And there you go. Worth every minute of it. So that's how you clean a gizzard. You can take these and you can deep fry them, bread them, fry them, whatever. But they will taste a lot better if you get rid of that middle piece. And that's it. Have fun. Okay, back again, and this is my recipe for dirty rice, which actually came originally, it's a Cajun dish, but I grew up watching Justin Wilson. He died in 2001 at the age of 87. He was born in 1914, but I used to watch him all the time growing up, and this is basically his recipe, but it's kicked up a little bit to my liking. So what we got here is, I guess we'll start over here. We got 2 cans of condensed cream of mushroom soup. Got some chicken and beef stock. We got 2 pounds of long grain rice. Got about a half a cup of chopped up Italian parsley, a cup of green onion or scallions. Now we got a teaspoon each of black pepper and thyme. That's the dried thyme. 4 bay leaves, 1/4 cup or 4 tablespoons of minced garlic, some Worcestershire sauce, of course some salt, 2 sticks of unsalted butter, and now this is the traditional Trinity. You've heard me cook with the mirepoix, but the difference between that and the Trinity is the Trinity uses the green pepper instead of the carrot. So you usually have carrot, celery, and onion for the mirepoix. The Trinity is onion, green pepper, and celery. And generally the proportions to make a good Trinity are twice as much onion as you have the green pepper and the celery. So this is 1 cup of celery, 1 cup of green pepper, 2 cups of onion, and that's all been diced. And then I have, this is what I prepared for you earlier, and this is a pound of gizzard and hearts. And then we also are going to need 2 pounds each of ground beef and ground pork. Now, if you buy the ground beef, it's fine, but it's basically the same price, and I like to grind my own. So I've got, chuck is the best beef cut to make ground beef. It's got a nice mixture of fat in there too. So we're going to be grinding that up. We're going to be grinding up the gizzards as well. And I've got a pork shoulder, which is also nice to grind up instead of the that pork, ground pork that you can buy. That stuff's nasty looking. So I figured since I'm going to set up the grinder, we'll just go ahead and grind everything. So I got my KitchenAid here, and if you have one of these, you can get an attachment, like 70 bucks. And this is the meat grinding attachment, and it's pretty simple to set up. Basically what you have is, you got the pusher for the top, and then this is also a wrench to take off the front. And then inside here, sometimes it doesn't come this way, it comes separate, but it's all in the box. You have the auger. So here's the auger. So that goes in, and then they give you a cutting die. So that goes in next. And then they give you 2 different size grinders. There's a large and a small hole die. So I like to use the large hole. So we'll put that in there and then put the cover on it. And then this just screws into the front where that little plug was. Tighten it down. And that's it, it's ready to go. So the important thing about grinding meat is it has to be cold, because if it's warm, it's going to squish through here, and then it's going to change its consistency, and then it's going to be tough. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut all this up into manageable pieces to grind it through, and then stick it in the freezer for about 10 or 15 minutes to get it nice and cold, and then we'll grind it. And by the way, this is about almost 3 pounds of the pork shoulder, but what I'm going to do is I need 2 pounds, so I'm going to trim a little of the fat out of there, and then this is 2 pounds already, so we'll be good to go. And I'll cut this up, put it in the freezer, and then I'll be back. Okay, I have taken the meat out of the freezer, and it's been in there for about 15-20 minutes, and it's a little hard, so here we go. We're going to grind it all up, and I'm not going to talk during that because it's kind of loud. as you can see, that is probably the best ground beef you'll ever see, along with you'll ever taste. So that's that. And here's the ground pork. Okay. And here's the ground gizzards. Okay, so now we're going to start browning the meat. And you want to do this first. When Justin originally did this recipe, he just threw all the meat in and used some water in the actual dish to cook the meat and everything, but I think we can do better. We're going to start browning the meat now, and first we'll do the pork. Does not look good. You put this next to the pre-ground pork, and it's not even going to compare. So I'm going to brown this off, and what I'm trying to do is, along with getting some color on the meat, I'm trying to get those brown bits in the bottom of the pan, which add all that extra flavor. What we're going to do now is, it's been going for a couple minutes, but we're going to add some salt and some pepper. Again, it's all about layering the flavors. I know there's going to be some salt and pepper in the dish when we assemble it into the pot, but as I go along, I like to pre-season everything a little bit, because I think that if you cook without salt and you add it at the end, it really changes things. So we got a pretty good heat going here, because we want to get the meat brown. We don't really want to cook the hell out of it. So I haven't touched it yet. We're going to flip it over. We'll probably do about 3 minutes on each side. Okay, so it's been 3 minutes. Now we're going to turn it over. Yeah, baby. We got some brown going on there. But more importantly, we got the brown in the pan there, that so-called fond, which when we add some liquid to will really flavor this dish. So we're going to cook this another 3 minutes. And after this is cooked, it's your opportunity to get rid of the fat. So I set up a colander here, so we're going to go straight from this pan into the colander, and we're going to drain the fat on there so that later on it doesn't end up in the dish, because as you saw before, there's 2 sticks of butter in this thing. And actually, when Justin originally made this dish, he would use margarine, because he loved margarine, and he would even lick his fingers after he put it in the bowl or in the dish with his hand. So these days, margarine is shied upon, and we personally use butter. We use unsalted butter for cooking, and we use salted butter for when we have bread or mashed potatoes or something. So things have changed. So now we got 3 minutes on this. So what I'm going to do is transfer it to the colander. Okay, so this is what we're looking for, this beautiful brown on here, and we want to make sure we don't burn that. Otherwise we'll end up with nothing. Look at that beef, huh? That is bright red, in case you can't see it on camera. Again, a little more salt, some pepper. Go another 3 minutes. We turn down the heat a little bit because the pork had a little bit more juice in it. And again, I want to protect that brown on the bottom of the pan. Okay, now I can hear the pan sizzling down. I'm going to turn the heat up to counteract all that moisture. And let this go a little bit longer, another couple minutes. Now, we're going to turn this meat over. We got brown on it again. Now, there's a lot of juice in here, so I'm still on a pretty high heat. But that juice is good because it's protecting that brown on the bottom of the pan. And what I'm also going to do is I'm going to transfer the drained pork now to our cooking pot. So I can dump this in there once it's finished. And what I'm not going to saute the gizzards or the heart because I don't want to brown that off. I just want all that flavor to go straight into the dish. There's no reason to brown any of that. So I'm going to let some of this liquid burn off. We'll go another couple minutes and move on to the next step. It's been 3 minutes, and just a word about browning. You really don't want to do this in a non-stick pan because you're not going to get any of those brown bits to stick to the bottom. You need to invest in a cast iron pan like this or something hard anodized, or that's can take the brown bits and will have them stick to it. So don't do this in a non-stick pan. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take this meat, put it in the colander, what actually happens by browning the pork first, which I think has more flavor than the beef, when that hit the pan and all the water came out of the beef, it actually deglazed the pan, so all the brown bits are in that meat now. But there's a little bit left. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit this, just hit this with a little beef broth. Scrape up whatever's left here. I'm going to add this right to the pot now where we're going to cook everything. Okay, so the next step, now we're going to cook our Trinity. I'm going to turn the heat down. Put a little bit of this butter, since we got 2 sticks going in, I might as well use some now. I want to make sure this pan cools off because this butter will brown in no time and burn. Let's see where we're at. See, that's still way hot. I'm going to cool it off with this beef because we're going to use it later on in the recipe. Add that to the pot. Okay. I think we're good now. I'll add a tablespoon or so of butter. Now I go a little more. 2 tablespoons of butter. Got the heat lowered now. This is where Justin would lick his finger. Okay, so when I cook with butter, I like to creep up on the heat rather than have too hot of a pan. Sizzling. It's all about building the flavor. If you slightly brown the butter, you'll have more flavor in there. So now we're going to add our onion. Green pepper. And celery. And to this, add another pinch of salt and some pepper. See, I'm always thinking about what would this taste by itself when I salt and pepper it, to try to add some, just to keep it going, keep the flavors going as we're cooking. So now that I got all that in there, the butter's protected, I'm going to bring the heat up a little more. And what we're looking to do here is just to wilt this stuff a little bit. just to cook it until it starts to soften and you can smell it. In the meantime, I'm going to put this beef in the pot. Okay, now I'm looking at this juice and I want to get the meat flavor out of this, so I'm going to defat this and I'm going to add the rest of this also to the cooking pot. Now, one of the easiest ways I find to defat any liquid that you're cooking with, especially this since it's a small amount, and we know that I'm going to be adding chicken stock and I'm going to be adding beef stock to the recipe, so I'm going to go ahead and pour this in my defatter. And I'm going to rinse the bowl out with some more beef stock, because all the flavor's in here. Then I'm going to add some more stock to equal a cup. And whenever I'm cooking with beef stock, I like to mix it with something else because by itself it's a little strong. So I'm going to take a cup of chicken stock, to equal 2 cups roughly of liquid that's going to go in here when we cook the dish. So I'm going to let that sit a minute and I'm going to see what we got going on here. Now I'm starting to smell all these vegetables. They're starting to give off a little bit of liquid. So at this point, I'm going to add in the thyme and the pepper, black pepper. It's a teaspoon of each. Mix that in. Just trying to get all these flavors to bloom. Okay, so that's good. And I'm going to add 1/4 cup or 4 tablespoons of the garlic, the minced garlic. This is going in at the end because garlic burns really easy if you saute with it. You have literally 30 seconds or so to get it off the bottom. So we'll mix this up. And there's enough liquid in here and there's enough ingredients to protect the garlic from burning. So I'm going to cook this now until I smell the garlic, and then it'll be ready to add to the dish. In the meantime, I got a little bit of fat on here, and quite honestly, it's really not that much, so that's how you tell if you ground it up properly. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add this whole thing to the cooking pot. So I'm going to pour this in right now. That's 2 cups, roughly 2 cups of liquid. Okay, so now I'm starting to smell the garlic. So this is going to go in there. I know it's a bad angle for the camera, but I can only do so much. I'll put this in. So here's our base. Now at this point I can add all the other ingredients. So I'm going to start bringing this up on the burner now. So we'll add the gizzards that we ground up. Now I can do a better angle for you. To that we're going to add our green onions. We're going to add the rest of the butter. Now I know you're thinking it's a lot of butter, but once you see how much rice goes into this, it's not going to seem like a lot. Mix that up. Oh yeah. Okay, we'll add, actually I don't want to break those up. We're going to add some bay leaf. In a little bit here, but I want to add that at the end so I don't break it up. It's looking good. And we'll add our Italian parsley. Now we added a few more ingredients, so again I want to salt it. Another pinch, about a teaspoon or so. We're not going to add any more pepper because we got some in there. Okay, now I'm going to add about 4 bay leaves. Now this has got to cook for 4 hours. So, and up to this point you can do way ahead of time. Because the rice you can cook later on and assemble the dish, because it's got to cook for another 30 minutes once the rice is mixed in after the rice is cooked. So at this point you can finish this off, which is like what I'm going to do, and then put it in the refrigerator overnight and let all these flavors blend. And then tomorrow, we actually are going out tomorrow night, so I'm going to bring this dish with me in my electric skillet to keep it warm. So the main thing about this is you want to stir it every once in a while, and after about a couple of hours you can take the bay leaves out if you want. So we're going to bring this to the boil, we're going to simmer it, and then we're going to check it every once in a while and stir it, because if you don't stir it, it's going to stick on the bottom. So it's starting to come to the boil now. That looks good enough to eat right now. So I'm going to find me a lid for this pot, and I'm going to start simmering it, and I'll be back in a little while. Okay, now it's boiling, so I'm going to turn it down. And one of the other ingredients I wanted to add was some Worcestershire sauce, about 3 tablespoons. 1, 2, 3. 3. I love Worcestershire sauce. 3. Okay. 3. All right. Oh yeah. Okay. So we're just going to continue cooking it. Isn't this fun? Okay, well, it's been cooking for 2 hours. Looks pretty good. There's a lot of liquid in here, but every half hour I've been mixing it up a bit. So we'll let it keep going. I'll show you what it looks like in a little bit. Well, it's been 3.5 hours. Let's take a look at it now. I tell you, this house smells incredible. If they could take this flavor and harness it and put it in a Scentsy, they'd have a winner. Wow. Okay, so we're going to let it go another half hour. And we'll see what it looks like. Okay, so it's at the end of the 4 hours. And you see, you want that little bit of a simmer. You don't want it to go nuts. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to let this cool just for a few minutes. And then I'll show you where we're at with the fat level. We'll strain all the liquid out. And we'll see where how much fat lies in it. So I'll be back in a few minutes. Alright, I've taken the mixture and put it through the colander, and I've got the juice here. I've taken the bay leaves out. Now let's see how much fat we get in this. I can already see that we got about a cup of fat already. So let's move it into a measuring cup. Pour off that first layer. Okay, so what this shows is we got 4 cups of the cooking liquid, and we got about a cup and a half of fat. Now, ordinarily when you cook rice, for every 1 cup of rice you need to add 2 cups of water, so 2 to 1 on that. And then to make the rice taste good, they recommend that you put a teaspoon of salt and a tablespoon of butter in every cup of rice. So basically we're cooking 4 cups of rice. So it would be 4 teaspoons of salt, and then it would be 4 tablespoons of butter, and also 8 cups of water. So at this point, if you wanted to watch the butter content, this is very flavorful fat. What we could do is, in order to make the rice taste appealing, we could go ahead and cook the rice and add the butter and the salt appropriately to make it seasoned. So that's going to be a determination we're going to have to make at the final test, or the final taste actually. So what I'm going to do at this point is I'm going to put it in the refrigerator with the cooking liquid back in there, and then tomorrow I'm going to make the rice and put it all together before I bring it to the party. So I'll be back for all of that. Before I put it away, I'm going to actually go ahead and taste the broth to see where we're at. Oh yeah, that is incredibly rich in flavor, and the salt level is pretty much right there. So I think that if we cook the rice per the directions, we'll be pretty close on the salt. So hey, this is ready to go in the fridge now. I got my meat product here, and here's the fat. But the last thing I'm going to do is, remember these 2 cans of cream of mushroom soup? I want this to sit in there overnight, so I'm going to add this to the mixture now. Cooking is definitely an experience, and that's why my videos are kind of long-winded, because I like to take everybody through the experience, and if you don't like how long they are, I'm sorry about that, but the food takes minutes to eat, so you might as well savor this stage of the process. You get some joy out of it before it's gone. Okay. So I'm going to give this a stir. And surprisingly enough, even though it's cooked for 4 hours, it's not all just a mush. It's pretty defined, as the vegetables and everything are pretty defined a little bit. Well, I mean, there was a fine dice on them, but it's definitely, when you put it over the rice, it's not going to look like, you know, a pile of indistinguishable stuff. You'll be able to make out a little bit what it is. So there it is, and now I'm going to put it in the fridge. I can show you it if you want. Took on a little bit of the color of the soup there. So, all right. Okay, so as you saw yesterday, I added the mushroom soup to the mixture, and I cooked it another half hour today. So this is hot now, and I made my rice per the package directions. Now, for the 4 cups of rice, it calls for 4 teaspoonfuls of sugar, of salt, which I put in there, kosher salt, 4 teaspoons, and 4 tablespoonfuls of butter. But instead I used the fat, which I rendered out of this, and here's what's left over, about 1 1/8 cups. So this I know is okay salt-wise and everything, but I want to make sure the rice tastes good before I add it to this, so that I end up with a balanced dish. So this rice is ready now. I'm going to taste it. When I added the cream of mushroom soup, it brought the salt level up slightly on this. The salt's pretty close on this, so it should even out. And it, even though I put the fat in, it tastes like it could use more. But what I'm going to do is, let me try it again. I'm going to be true to Justin Wilson, and I'm going to add a little more fat. Okay, so now put the rest in. After all, that's what the recipe calls for. I just don't want it to be real greasy. And you could always add it back in, so pretty happy with that now. So I'm going to start what I'm going to do, let me get the camera over here. Okay, so now I'm going to mix these two together. Oh yeah. Doesn't that look good? does look like the right proportions. I'm dying to taste this. Let's see. That's scary up close, isn't it? Okay, so now that it's all together, I'm going to add some more salt. Probably another teaspoon. It tastes different. When you put stuff in the freezer overnight, it really tastes different the next day once the flavors blend. So okay, boy, that is the best you'll ever taste. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to assemble it. I'm going to take this pot to the party. So I'm going to put it in here. And I like this grill because it has a really low setting for serving, so it's not going to burn this thing. That's something else, huh? It's really nice. So there you have it. Dirty rice. And I'm going to make this again. So when you go to the store, when you go to the supermarket, especially around now, Thanksgiving time, buy those packages that have the giblets and the heart mixed in. They're like a pound, like I showed you at the beginning of the video. Buy up as many as you can get. Leave some for me if you're around here, and then you could freeze them, and you could use them at any time. And then they also have those really big turkey necks. You could buy those for cheap, freeze those, and you could use them all year round. The turkey meat off of the neck is delicious, and you can make some good soup off of it or some stock. So that's it. See you next time.